Hi guys, welcome to Hope Channel Kenya. Thank you for tuning in. You're watching The Identity. Kuna wale ambao walikuwa wanauliza kwani last week ilikuwaje? And I guess last week was last week was to give us a recap on where we were and now where we're headed to. Now, this season we're going to talk about communication, and I'm sure you've already seen some hashtag flying around on social media. Hashtag Sirikali Saidia. We'll be looking at that, but then to help me further to this discussion, I'm joined with Rafael Mogesa. Vipi?
Poa sana, vipi?
Uko salama?
Uko salama sana.
Unakaa fiti.
Ready to tackle this thing.
Amen. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Next to me is Bonareri Makori. Hi.
Hi.
Uko fiti?
Uko poa sana.
Kabisa?
Kabisa.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Next to me is our resident guest, Mr. and Mrs. Andrew Wino. Andrew.
Yeah, man.
Vipi? The surprise nayo.
That didn't come from me.
Omujui. Karibu sana. Today we're going to talk about communication at an individual level, and I will encourage you to share with us, rather post your questions as we further this discussion. Our social media platforms are on Facebook, that is at Hope Channel Kenya, and you can also ask questions also on my account, that is Samuel Mangi, on Twitter at Hope_Kenya. You can also find this show on our YouTube, that is Hope Channel Kenya. Now, you're talking about communication at an individual level, but I guess it's proper to ask, what is communication?
I want to ask. I want to begin by answering that question.
Go ahead.
The last time we said it's an art of passing and receiving information. Today I want to give it a different touch. It's the art of creation, then encoding, then the passing, then decoding, and then feedback of information.
Okay.
Is that a good definition for today?
Was that really a question? That was an answer. Karibu sana. Okay, fine. I'm even najiuliza, where do we go from there? Okay, fine. Communication is the art of creating.
You create the information.
What is encoding?
You encode. That means if there is something I would say to you that you're the only one who understands. So there are always code words in communications around. So if it's your baby, there's a way you talk to them. So you package to their level. If it's a pastor,
kuna communication ya pastor.
Yes, so
that is
encoding,
formulating the message.
Yes, so that is applicable to the person you are addressing. Then there is the passage. That's where now there is the medium. Whether you want to talk, you want to write it. I write her notes at home. Yeah, honey, you made good breakfast.
You write a note, you don't say?
You choose what media. Or you talk it out, you write a text. And then the other person has to receive it and decode. They have to decide you are annoyed, you love them, you are encouraging them, or you are criticizing them. That's decoding. And then they have to give you feedback. Sio ile feedback niwaambia last time. Yeah, the lady who was told you are smart. Tell
it to Jesus.
That's not a good decode. Yeah.
Now, with quite an elaborate definition of what communication is, my first question would be, Bona, where do people learn to communicate? Or you're just born with it?
No, we're not born with how to communicate. Okay, we are gifted with how we can communicate through the voice, and we have the mouth, we have the ears to listen, but we basically learn through what we hear, because most of the children watasikia mamake akisema moto anaanza auto, then that's how they learn. So we learn through hearing. So that's how we learn how to communicate. So if we learn the wrong way, we communicate the wrong way. But if we are in a good environment where we hear lovely words, we hear kind words, we learn how to communicate kindly. Yeah.
Communication starts by hearing. Diane, with that said, I'm left to imagine, since vile letter, it's like I have to go to an institution to learn. Does that mean I'll have to wait mpaka nifike see baby class? Kuna hiyo ingine ameleta.
Kuna pre-baby class.
First, I want to say that everyone has an intrinsic need for communication. not just human beings, but even animals. You'll find everything is just born and they have this need to pass something, like you need to share something. If you study animals, you'll notice even when there is danger, they have a way of telling someone else there is danger. When a child is born, they have this need that I want people around me to know I am hungry.
They should know that I'm around.
Yes, they should know I'm around
arrived.
or I've arrived. So they cry. Why? Because not just to open their lungs and activate their breathing, but it's also a form of communication. And if you've been around mothers for long, they'll tell you this is now cry for hunger, this is cry for changing the baby, this is cry for sleep. You know, they just don't want to sleep. So that need is there in everyone. The problem is the how. That's where people, you know, you have to be around a good environment for you to learn appropriate ways of communication. Now, the how is where the society may not have, you know, ideal setups of teaching people how, and probably that's why we have so many issues with communication as you grow up. Because you'll find a child who has now moved from the environment of crying, and they now want to learn how to speak, for example. They can only speak from what they hear. If the alphabet they have does not have some letters, probably they'll not know how to construct certain words because the alphabet they've been given does not have these letters. And by the alphabet, I mean the language of communication. Were they taught courtesy? In some houses, courtesy does not exist. You know, you wake up, go sort yourself out. So if you're a child and you're hungry, there are even kids who know how to enter the fridge, open the fridge, and pick it for themselves, and they'll be cheered because the environment is like, in this house, you sort yourself
Survival
out.
for the fittest.
Yeah.
Man eat man society. or like where I grew up when it was food time, you know, they would just call you, Owino, watch me. that means, Owino, shauri yako. And you would decode that food,
Immediately.
it's food time. But there's something she said, let me add on. Communication is one of the the most important skills anybody needs. Apart from it being something that we are born intrinsically to want to, like she said, but when you grow up, finally realize for you to get a wife,
You need to.
for you to get a job, for you to keep that wife.
For you to keep that wife.
It's a basic need. It's actually, in fact, somebody said basic need has changed from food, shelter, and clothing. Akaongeza Wi-Fi na charge. But I want communication. I want to add communication. It's really very important.
You know, Proverbs 22, chapter 22, verse 6, it says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Raphael, I'm left to pick it from that point. So it is that important what a child is impacted at a tender age? Ama atashikanisho kombele?
Apala. Whatever you teach this child, not only through telling him, but also what you do as a family. Remember, this child doesn't only learn from what you tell him, but also from what he or she sees in you. So by training, it's not all about taking this child to an institution for them to instill discipline, to instill what this child needs to say or what doesn't need to do, or where this child needs to go or where this child doesn't need to go, but also on how your family carries yourself. Also on how a firstborn carries himself, a lastborn would also learn the same. So it's also a challenge back towards the firstborners. Ukiona lastborn, you know, anasumbua ma secondborners. People say secondborn anasumbua zaidi kuliko even the lastborn.
Rough, but
basically, training is also all about what you provide for this child. Which TV channels do you give this child? What sort of cartoons do you give this child? Where do you take this child for fun? The kind of school this child is in. What kind of people are around this person? What kind of teachers are around them? So about training the child, it's all round.
So it's very essential.
Actually, I just remembered an illustration I read in a book, what Raf is saying about not just training, but the things you show. Mom and Dad were concerned that Jimmy and Mark were always quarreling all the time. So one day Mom called Jimmy and asked, why do you always quarrel? Can you stop quarreling? Jimmy said, "No, mom, we are not quarreling. We are playing, mom." And it's like a logo thing. I mean, they are simply acting out
What they see.
what the parents see.
Exactly.
Wow, bona. So now, kama youth, kuna vitu zenye tunaona in our family, and we realize, okay, sasa this should be changed. How do I get to approach it? Because we are saying what our parents get to reflect has an impact to not only the young ones but to us. Ama, does that also affect us as youths? How our parents communicate?
It really affects us, because if you are raised in an environment where people don't know how to express themselves in low tones, they just, when there's an issue, they just, wewe nani? Just capital letters. As in, it's just shouting and all. Even when it comes even to relationships, even as youths, when you're planning even to get married, it affects you, because you won't know how to express yourself, or you will express yourself thinking this is the right way of expressing yourself based on what you've seen back at home. But in real sense, this is not what is the right thing to do. So it will affect how you relate with others, how you even express yourself, which will in turn even hinder people from communicating to you or reaching out to you because of how you've been raised at home.
Dan, mi naona tuna point wazazi sana.
I think it's important, especially for parents, because they're the ones who know better. The child does not know better. It's important for parents to understand first themselves how or who am I in terms of communication. Because you'll find there are communicators who their thought process happens through speaking. So you have this mother who is always talking.
After Malisa ndio na.
Yeah, because for them, how they process thoughts is through speaking. If they don't articulate it, their thoughts are not processed. Then there is another one who, they just keep quiet. They think about it, synthesize it, then how they later come. Some fathers are like that, yeah? They go into silence before they can speak about it. Then there are these people who speak one-word things. You're in a conversation with them and they go like, yeah, okay. I don't know if you've been in conversations with such people, or you text them. Yeah. So they just give one-word answers because they're very orderly, and these are very timely people, and they're very meticulous in what they do. So they weigh their words before they share them. So if you understand yourself like that, you can now take the same mindset and start understanding your children. For instance, there are children who you tell them do something, they'll ask you, "Mommy, why?" Others tell them, "Please go and do this thing." They'll just do it without questioning. Yeah, to please mommy, they won't ask. And so parents, because they don't understand the thinking process, this one who asks why, he'll be told you're being disobedient. Yet there are people in their thinking process, they need to understand reasons. You just give them all the reasons, and then they'll say, "Oh, now I understand. Now I can do it."
But
then
the parents are always right.
The parents are always right. They've not yet taken time to study that, oh, my child's thinking pattern is this way, and so their communication pattern should be this way. There are children who, if you beat, you're actually turning their hearts away from them. There are others who, please pick that stick, and they'll learn how to do what you want them to do. So communication needs you to study yourself as a parent first and know that this is who I am. Then also understand the people around you. Once you've understood yourself, you can now help the people around you to learn how to communicate better.
Let me give you now, that's a broad perspective from parents to youth. I want to zoom into the youth. When you have come from an environment, we have all agreed that we learn from home. And if you grew up in a home where when things were bad, daddy was quiet. That's how you got to know things are bad. So you go out in life hoping that that's the way to tell people you are angry. And you realize it doesn't work. So I think there's a time also where you now have to learn yourself and learn some of the things you picked which were bad. But also at a stage in youth, there's a place where youth just require to be validated. They just need to be given identity. And I like it that this show is called the Identity Show. So there's a time where a young person just wants to belong. Parents would need to approach it in a way that they give the young people that belonging.
Andrew, I also want you to add voice on this aspect. That sometimes you get to interact na vijana and you realize there's some values that these people hold on to and you're like, aye. So that also goes into their bringing.
Yes, in fact, all the values we get are as a result of the learning process. And Raf said well, the learning process is not just at home, at school. It's the things we expose ourselves to. We're going to have a segment here on social media. You know, the kind of programs you watch, if it's always been violent, then you'll find that's the way you unpack your thoughts. So the values you see people holding is actually by beholding you become change, that which you expose yourself to each and every day. If you expose yourself to people who are kind, who are considerate, such will be your thoughts. If you expose yourself to people who are vulgar, who are losing their words, such will be your thought process.
Amazing. Raf, I want to bring you in. Well, now let us move from the upbringing and let's come to now sisi ka vijana. Ushai kutana culture yenye imekuwithhold from communication?
Like
some cultural practices yenye kozileza, okay.
Hapana.
Oje kon experience. Hold on the mic. Hold on the mic.
You know, I've just thought about this because we were speaking about family. You know, there in the families where we learn all the bad habits before now you cross over and become an adult.
Like how as in you learn all the bad habits.
In the family, we have a lot of assumptions when it comes to communication. You assume he should know that he's supposed to help me. Yeah. For instance, let me give just a normal example. I'm doing housework and I need help with something. A wife assumes when he doesn't see that this needs to be done. So she doesn't say it, but you just see her working over there. She's moody, not saying hi to anyone. Yeah. But if she just said, like, honey, could you help me clean the dishes? He would probably clean the dishes. That's communication, not working with assumptions. And so sometimes you grow up, you've left the house, and you have this nice gentleman who is in a relationship with you, and you assume he should know that I'm expecting,
sense.
you know,
common sense dictates.
Yeah, you expect somebody to be an angel to just know that today you are very moody, or he should just know that today you are feeling mad. How should he know? It's because we learned that, you know, in the home we learned the bad habit of assumption. Sometimes it's usually easier to talk to a stranger because with a stranger you don't assume anything. You'll even ask, what's your name? How do you prefer to be called? But in the home, the assumption is this girl, we can call her anything. And so some people have even been given nicknames in their homes, which they don't like. But because people are working with assumptions that, she's my sister, she'll be okay. Then there are other things like gossip. Do you know if your families have gossip? You know, there are families where
you discuss.
You discuss. So instead of someone coming and talking to you about something you did directly, let's say it's even parents, they'll call another sibling and say, ulisikia kile nani alifanya? And they've not spoken to you, and you're members of the same family. You come here that your family members discussed you in your absence, and you've never been told these issues. And so you carry this thing, and later in life some people actually end up not sharing their relationship issues with each other. They didn't tell you, but you hear by the girlfriend went and told another person that he did 1, 2, 3 things, yet never discussed it with you. Where did they learn it?
Wow.
Some other cultural barriers apart from assumption. Maybe Raf has experienced this. Mwanaume afai kulia.
No, Raf ushailia.
Unalia kindani ndani.
Machozi ya crocodile.
You never show it up to the people.
Until now.
Oh yeah, I think the last time I cried, maybe in a funeral or something. But
so you only cry on a funeral?
Hii ya kulia ati umeachwa.
Hii ni upbringing basically.
You're the upbringing. Okay, the kind of environment I've been brought up in is you be strong.
Kaa ngumu.
You see, kaa ngumu. not only even to my sister. Pia yeye ni mtu wa kukaa ngumu. I don't think I've ever seen her going around crying ovyo ovyo.
Kwani wewe ni aje?
Ama amekosea amenipigia simu, Rafael, imagine the way I see it with other fellas. I don't see that. But again, now coming back to me, you had asked me a question on something.
How does culture affect communication?
It does. But again, at our age, you get to a point that you can control it. You cannot keep on going back on a jitetea that even though many lelewa. You also a big person, you got your brains. So there are things that you also have them on your table, but you would say no. Not because ulikatazo from kitambo, but because now you can think independently. You see, we've been to campus.
Sio serikali saidia.
Sio serikali saidia.
You don't have to have a backing. Yourself, your own maturity is your own backing. Like for example, people go to campus, you've been brought up in a very good family, but by the time you're finishing for the year, you're a different thing. Okay? See, ati ulifunzwa kunywa pombe, back at your place, there's no one who abuses any kind of drug, but it's you who opted to flow by those other people. And you see, this is an open system. You have to go to school. You have to go to campus. In campus, you meet different people. Will you accept them to change you or you to change them? Or even if at least you don't change them, do not accept to be changed to what you are not taught.
Bonareri, what do you think about that? Culture and all that?
Yeah, I think, though I also believe, as you said, there are things also we teach ourselves that maybe your parents raised you the right way, but along the line, you just start teaching yourself the wrong things. As in, you expose yourself to, let's say, movies or songs or friends that teach you to behave in certain ways that your family does not behave that way. So it is not entirely that your parents failed or those who brought you up in the wrong way. Sometimes we fail our parents by learning the wrong things. We expose ourselves, we hear the wrong kinds of things, we expose ourselves to the wrong kind of things. So I believe we also learn cultures that we should not learn.
You should unlearn basically.
Yeah, we should unlearn basically.
We're going for a short break. I'm going to hold you on the thoughts. But I think one thing I'm deriving from this is that sometimes vijana, we are our failures, not only to our parents, but to ourselves. You know, this whole hashtag serikali sede mentality all comes from your upbringing and what you've exposed yourself. And after the break, we'll be talking about this mentality, or not even mentality, a society when mtoto ni wa community. Is it the same right now? And if it is it felt really? We're going for a short break, and this short break we're going to have a talent segment. We do hope that you're going to be blessed by it.
Years I spent in vanity and pride, caring not my Lord was crucified, not knowing that it was for me he died. On Calvary, by the blood and
Hi guys, welcome to The Identity. Thank you for staying tuned. We are now going to the second part, but before that, we do hope that that talent segment will bariki. And if you have a talent that you need to share with us, our social media platforms again are on Facebook, The Identity. You can also find me on my Facebook account, that is Sama Omangi, on Twitter at Hope_Kenya. Share with us and you might be featured next week. Thank you for being with us. And now, before we went for the break, we had left at a point of back then. I actually think we are all used to this, that unajua wakati wetu, sio mimi, wakati wetu, yani ukifanya makosa mzazi ana deal, mtu any elderly person ana deal na wewe. Ulikuwa kwa generation bona?
Nilisikia.
Ulisikia hata pia uliambiwa?
Niliambiwa story.
At a group of schools. Do you think that is the kind of society, as in zime change?
Hey, vitu zime change. Right now, if a child, let's say, even does something wrong and you're even the neighbor, you can't touch somebody's child. They can even forward your case to the police, yeah, for assault or something of that sort. People nowadays prefer to deal with their own kids the way they want to deal with them. Some even don't want to cane their children. They want, mommy, sweetie, don't do that. Akikam, yeah.
Raf, mimi nafikiri hiyo society ya kitambo ilikuwa poa.
You see, all this goes down to the environment again. Geographical location. Go to Kisii. Kosea nko yako atakupiga.
Tadili na wewe hapo categorically.
Free atakupiga. That kid atachapa. Come to Nairobi, mko hapo plot 10, you can't beat mtoto wa mwenyewe. Naona. Na uwezi hata mshautia, leave alone beating. Ile kwa Kisii tunaita huko tokonyera. Kwa Kisii ndio ingetoka vizuri.
That is the best way.
Yeah. So it is still there. But depending with the community where you are.
Do you think it was a good upbringing kind of thing?
Yeah, it was a good one, because even back then the issue of jealousy wasn't that much.
Actually, haikuwa
because everything was communal. You would go and feed ng'ombe place moja, utazipeleka mtoni moja. Okay, now that I went through that. Vimelelewa hapa chini Rongai. So we didn't have all that. But nowadays, you've come from different areas. You're there in plot 10, people from Western, people from Coast. People call them lazy. Kuna wengine wanatoka from somewhere wanaitwa very much hardworking, wengine hasira and all that. So we must be careful with whom we are dealing.
Sammy, just a moment. I want to appreciate what he said last. Apart from jealousy not being there and people being communal, something else we saw in that mindset where mtoto ni wa jamii, we actually grew up in that environment. We learned good communication. We learned courtesy. You couldn't pass an old man without initiating, as a child, a greeting.
Exactly. Even when playing football, I remember growing up down here, tumzima akipita, you hear respect.
Pause.
Alaka unaenda kufunga bao, you pause.
Kila mtu ana hang hapo.
That part ya kufunga bao, but again, there was that bit of it, even for us who grew up in the urban areas.
I totally agree with him. So there is a way in which, as the dynamics of the society go on, we need to retain the good things, even if there have been changes. And now today I discipline my own kids, and things like that. But there could be good things out of a communal behavior.
Arrangement.
Dan, what changed? As in, me, sometimes I wish I was born in that era of, mtoto in a community. As much as you can get deal nayo, but what changed?
So many things have changed. With urbanization, the parents who are no longer at home, you find I need to leave the house at 5 a.m. and I need to come back very late in the evening when the kids are asleep. And I'm now living in a community where we are from various places. Someone is from Italy, another one is from Kenya, another one is from, China. We have very many of them in our country today. And you'll find the values there and the values here could be somewhat different. Yeah. Even the ways of disciplining children and even training, it could be different. Yeah. And so because of that change, also because of the disadvantages that the communal setup brought, for instance, you'd find stories of children who have been overbeaten by
Okay,
the,
no, not
by
beaten.
the neighbor.
Let me defend. Sio over disciplined. Discipline imekuwa sana. Beaten unajua inakaa ni vita. Disciplined ile overly disciplined.
Overly disciplined by a neighbor in the name of instilling discipline or teaching them a lesson, which if it was a parent, the parent would have done it in a different way. So because of that, people needed change. And the change is not necessarily bad, it's just that people need to learn how to do it in an effective way. As you leave the house, you know, and you're leaving a TV screen with your child, what is this child learning in terms of communication? What books do I need to learn or to give my child so that they learn how to communicate appropriately? And is this giving them all the lessons that they need in order to communicate? For instance, I would say when I was growing up, I learned how to write. So I'm a very good communicator when it comes to writing. I would write my thoughts a lot. Then I meet this gentleman several years later, and guess what?
True
When
story.
Look at how he's smiling like yeah.
True story.
and we can't keep talking on text. You know, when we're on text, it's so beautiful. I'll write him very long emails, and I'm sure he would enjoy my emails.
Well,
So later,
he did. Look at them.
The content
All of
was
them
good,
are-
but it was long. It was long. Who likes reading? I mean, can you write to your husband in the morning, good morning?
No, if you say if you can write your breakfast was good.
yeah, so you'll find, because I grew up just learning how to write all the time, I really love books, so I wrote a lot. I missed a second part of learning how to express my thoughts in speaking. And you see, when you're living with someone in the house, I wouldn't be writing notes, honey, good morning. Then he writes back and says, good morning to you. Now we need to talk about this. So I needed another skill. And so that is what parents need to learn, that in this age where we have, you know, social media, there is computing, there is a TV, and there are absent parents. So who are the kids going to be communicating with? How do you use Skype to your advantage? Especially when you've traveled.
Personally, one thing that I think it's a challenge is that unaweza pata mtoto wenu amelelewa tuna kizungu. Mimi nakuja na Kiswahili yangu, and I'm trying to instill discipline on that. This is frustrating. I can't communicate with this kid. Anaelewa tu kizungu. Out of that frustration, I get to deal with that child, you know, in a way that probably ingekuwa poa. But then I think this change, it's good, and I think as much as there were a lot of pros back then, equally the cons they were heavy, because kuna wale ambao the outcome was bad than wengine. That makes me now to a society where when you speak to a youth, there's something that you cannot miss out in speaking. Social media. How sio bona? All of the mic. Do you think social media may to affect sisi vijana on communication?
Yeah, it has really affected us.
In a good way.
Okay, in a good way and also a bad way. Because in a good way, you're able to reach out to people who are no longer in your vicinity, like people who went abroad and stuff, or even people who are just in the country but somewhere far from you. And negatively, it has numbed some of us, like...
Yeah, some of you, yeah, umejua tu,
Not...
I was gonna lie to it.
No, it's not a personal issue. Yeah, so in the sense that the way we respond to issues has greatly been affected by social media. Because at times, you have a take on something, but because you've seen social media, this is how people operate, or this is how they respond when such a thing happens. On a launch a hashtag, so you also start launching hashtags when you have issues.
Idea.
And even in our spiritual lives, you see in some instances, I'm sure most of our viewers have met this, unapata mtu anakuambia send this to 10 people and receive blessings. Ama type a man.
Any blessings are threads.
And get healing. You see, such kind of things have even affected us spiritually. So that's one of the negativities. We no longer want to actually pray to God. We want to claim these blessings from the WhatsApp groups and Facebook and stuff.
Bonus tauliza kama uko social media, acha niulize Raf. Raf, uko social media?
Yes, niko social media.
Very present.
Very present. That one I can't argue. And I have all sorts of friends, from the A friends to the Z friends. And so I get all this brought to my screen because, you know, social media doesn't aichuji. It doesn't filter for what to
kila kitu nakuja vile nakuja.
If this person is your friend on Facebook, or if you're following this person on Twitter or Instagram, you'll get them. So the same way, it's you to choose what to process for consumption, on what just it has come on your screen. Yes, you see it and you just scroll and move on to the next thing that it's for you. So social media for me greatly has helped the youth. Me, that I won't lie. It has created employment. It has made people to be connected. I know people have gotten married from getting a friend from social media, maybe a WhatsApp group or something.
Kwanza wa WhatsApp group. Umuko kwa group ya wedding kidogo next year ni harusi ya unamlikuwa kwa WhatsApp.
The same group kuchanga hii wedding.
Bado kuna okay, sawa.
Yeah. So hivyo tu vile nimesema, tunafaa tuitumie to our own advantage. Let it continue building us. The social media, when Mark Zuckerberg came up with this Facebook thing, he brought up the issue of connecting. It's social. What's social? To interact. Unaona? So you will even interact with somebody that you've never met, and you will even go 6 feet down. Ujai kutana na yeye.
Hiyo ni shida.
Ako na huko.
Andrew, najua tu wamesema social media ni nzuri. Kuna kafununu tu hapa, lakini social media ni nzuri ama ni mbaya?
Social media ni social media.
How is that even an answer?
Social media, as a person, I can get to brand myself. Can get to be known for something. The art of building. We are known for, whenever we come on social media, we're discussing family issues, communication issues, like you're now seeing. Then there is somebody who comes on social media and is always complaining, or is always inappropriately dressed. So there are two perspectives of social media. The information out there that people load, then the information you individually load on social media. There's somebody who is boringly too much on social media. Ukiona post yake unapita, even if they have a point. I don't know whether you've experienced that. So
unaona tu same mangi. Sure, tuende.
Yeah, so I think people need to learn how to use social media to their advantage for personal branding. Every time you show up there, you must have serious issues. Okay, like they two said, you can use it to gather networks. You know, your net worth is your network. How much you? I know there are people who, when they have weddings, they have to plan for a contingency, a bigger number, because of their social media presence. They are known, you know, and so I think.
Kuna watu walitafuta kura kwa social media.
Exactly, it's both good and bad. Let me talk about the other bad side of social media, where everybody posts their success. You know, you post on a vehicle, somebody's car, and people have advanced, and you are feeling in the natural space.
Uko tu.
Bado uko penye walikuacha. So
mulikuwa na class moja.
Mulikuwa na class moja, and you know, they are always posting these good things. While social media can be bad in that aspect, because it gives you a mindset of comparison. You want to think, maybe I have not accomplished, and things like that.
And interestingly, there are some few concerns that we are going to that will be running on your screen some few seconds from now. Please, this will be an echo for us youths to look at them and look at our lives. Is it marrying to what I'm doing? And if it is it something that I should toa ama niendelee? Damn. What about on social media?
You know, he just caused me to think about something when he mentioned personal branding. Today, many people are thinking of personal branding as what you put out there on social media, but I'd like to think about it as something that begins before social media. It's something you communicate out there that people meeting you must answer, who are you? You know, and it begins from how you look like. You'll always find me in a kitenge because that's my brand. I love African, you know. How does your hair look like? How do you walk? How do you sit? How do you smile? And sometimes you don't think about these little issues, but they go towards a certain brand. They actually paint you in a certain way before you start painting yourself on social media. Today, if you think about Margaret Thatcher, you think about Michelle Obama,
Samuel Mangi.
Okay, yes, Samuel Mangi. Oh, my husband. Yeah? I'm sure there is a look that comes to your head, like just an immediate look that she looks like this. And there is an importance why people who have, you know, gotten to some level in life know the importance of personal branding. Not just how you speak, not how your CV is or how many degrees you have, but just learning little simple skills that before you start speaking, communicate much more before your words. And that's the trick sometimes even in interviews, that some people have not learned how to brand themselves. How do you look like? When you walk in, can I make a judgment of who you are even before you start? Before you start speaking.
Damn.
And even as you speak, there is a brand to how you speak. Then you can transfer that on social media and now start weighing that this goes on to social media. This one, I don't think I want it on social media.
Not for public consumption.
Then also it guards you against comparison, because there are people who feel so bad about themselves. They go on social media, they're like, oh, today Nani has posted this and me, I am still like. If you know who you are, really, you go out there and check, oh, so he's done this. You'll smile about it because you're comfortable in your skin. You're comfortable with how you look like. You're comfortable with what you're doing and where you're going.
Bona.
Yes.
Tumongelea personal branding. Hii branding, juu mimi nikifikiria tu personal branding nafikiria tu kitu yani kampuni fulani. Ama what is personal branding?
Okay, I'll first begin with self-esteem. You see, self-esteem is how you view yourself. But now the opposite is now personal branding is where how people view you. Based on how you carry yourself about, how you do your things, how you dress, how you do your hair, how you communicate to people, your verbal and nonverbal. That is part of your personal branding. It is not about things like professional photos. I'm a brand. You know, pose mini brand. I'm Bonareri Makori. No. It's what people are going to say you when you are eloquently quiet in a room. When I look at Mangi like this, I say this is the Mangi, you know, this is what Mangi stands for. That is now your personal brand. Or when you are conspicuously missing at a place, people are going to miss you for a particular thing. That if Diane was here, she would be singing. If Andrew was here, we'd be laughing. If Raf was here, he'll have said a good point. You see, such kinds of things. Who are you? What are people saying about you? That is your personal brand. So it is not about basically what you think about yourself majorly. It's how you've put yourself out there.
Raf, let me speak to the boy child. Branding, personal branding in affecting relationships ama nikienda kutafuta tu job pekee?
Si job peke yake.
In affect relationships?
It does.
Aje sasa.
You'll get a lady who atakwambia I can't date a boy who is like this, like this, like this. Unaona? Siwezi date kijana mwenye anavaa kinyasa. But I wear shorts a lot in weekends. Maybe I've lost.
Mwenye anavalia ankle socks pekee.
Unaona, anavalia these shoes zinapendwa with our West African brothers. Sijui vile zinaitwa. So it's
Like there's a day we saw somebody who made a suit out of a bed sheet. And they showed a bed sheet ikawa suit.
Huyo yuko serious.
Na nitokezea nao kwa wedding.
so about personal branding. In relationships, the way you brand yourself, there's a group that you attract. Man. When you have the bling blings and the earrings and all that, you attract a certain clique of friends. If you're just an official kind of a person,
Like me.
I think
Nimejaribu.
nielewa.
Haters bana. Continue.
Also your language. We've talked about social media just a few minutes ago. Social media, I think, okay, like 80% is about what you write. Zingine ni videos or GIFs. So what even you also write, people can have a picture of you. Somebody has never met you, but there are things that you write, or even on your WhatsApp status, that this person would associate you with a certain clique of people. This person would associate you with maybe rock music because of the way you have those spikes, tattoos and all that. This person would associate you with an Adventist, a good Adventist. Maybe by the way you carry yourself around, the way you dress up and all that. So about branding, now going to the employment bit of it. We also do have social media for those kind of things. Maybe let me say employment and job. We do have LinkedIn. Most of these people you haven't met who are in LinkedIn. People have landed jobs from LinkedIn because of the way they carry themselves, the way they articulate their issues. Somebody talking about his job. You are an accountant. What do you post on LinkedIn? There is that CEO of let's say a big firm, maybe a KPMG or a PwC company. Is there, you followed him, he's seeing what you post, and you're being consistent of that. This person will develop a certain notion about it. I'm an insurance person. I work for insurance. So when you come to my inbox in LinkedIn, most of the people who are there are insurance professionals because I post a lot about insurance for the masses.
Andrew, now how do I get to package myself for a corporate world and probably even in a relationship? You can also touch on that.
I was thinking, first of all, on a personal platform. There are these WhatsApp groups. Did we know that we can use them individually to kujibuildia brand, to build your brand? You will never know in a group what will turn out. Of time only shows. There are people you are with in a group 5 years down the line, and later now they own companies and you can transact business with them. So I think it's always good that we be careful on a personal note, as an individual, what I post inside a group, that it always makes sense, it always adds value, it sits in some economic space, or I mean it either makes a spiritual sense. Some people just post things for the sake of posting, and today I've seen that culture going so high and it's draining us. Memes, just something you bring from here because something that's funny to you does not have to be funny to me. I mean, so it's good that I call it the scene of original thought. Today, we don't have people, nobody sits to even create those things. People are not artists, they don't draw, they don't do graphic designs, they copy, paste. And I think we are dying out of that. If we could, as an individual, just think about some content that you're going to deliver on the social media space. Some content you're going to say when you meet people. One of the greatest challenges I've always been giving myself is, I admire these guys who you give them 5 minutes to talk and they drive sense to your head. Those guys, they make me tickle. I would like to be such kind of a person. In 5 minute space, have I said something that you'll remember? Not just yapping. They are employers. Now that Raf talked about employers as well.
As you come to a close.
Who go stalking After the interview, they go checking what you have posted on your group to see whether you really, maybe you're a violent guy.
Are you the person you
joke.
claim to
person
be?
you have claimed to be. So we can decidedly go and clean up if you've put wrong things. Unfortunately, I can't go delete your stuff.
Damn.
Speaking about it, when it comes to relationship, I just thought about this verse in 2 Corinthians 3 verse 2. It says, "Ye are our epistles, written in our hearts, known and read of all men." So this was Paul writing and saying, people are actually reading you. They are not hearing from you, they are reading you, they are studying you. And if you're always aware of this thing, everywhere, in the office space, in the workplace, they're not just reading your Christianity, but even when it comes to relationships, before someone can approach you, they've been studying you. They've been watching your personality. There are people who, when they walk into the room, you feel them even before they speak. I don't know if you've met such people. There's just an air around them because they know how to carry themselves out, how to brand themselves well, how to work on their strengths until it's only their strengths that show. You don't know what their weaknesses are. Why? Because they've learned the power that there is in branding themselves, in working on their character until they are so polished, they are so fine in everything. And if we would do that, even when it comes to our Christian things, when we would learn to, the little things you've learned, you've polished them, you've made them so well, somebody would be able to look at you and say, there goes a Christian. There goes, a wife. You've seen these ladies who, they just pass and all the men are like,
wife
"There goes
material."
the wife." Yeah? It's because they've learned this, just one little skill of knowing that people are actually reading, they are watching. So when you post that thing there, remember this verse. People are reading, they are seeing it. So what is it that you want them to see 10, 20 years from now? What brand will you have built for yourself?
As we come to close, Raf, what will be a closing statement? Jusa tumesema we cannot live on kusema ati, blaming. What will be the take home for me as a youth?
Okay, let me now face my specific camera. You had me enough. To our viewers back at home and wherever we are, for me, what I would give as a final comments for myself, we are big people, we are youths. We have our independent minds. We've come from different backgrounds. Just know what is right for you, what is not right for you. What is right for you, go ahead, take advantage of it and run with it. That is what is not good for you, leave it aside. Thank you.
Amen. Bonareri.
Yes. My closing remark will be that we should remain authentic as youths. Be you, be yourself. Remember that above all else, even as you build yourself as a brand, as Bonareri Makori or as Andrew or as Diane, remember that above all else, you're representing Christ and you are a brand ambassador of Christ. So in whatever that you do, ensure that it is in line with the book, the Bible, that what God will have you do is what you're doing in your life. Then, in regards to communication, learn to listen more, than you speak. Because if you are just used to speaking, you'll never take in something useful that you can be able to speak later on, or you're just going to be responding to issues that you've not fully understood. So May the Lord help us to be good communicators.
Amen. Diane, what will be your closing remarks?
I think I would say let's practice that which we've learned today. It could be little, but the greatest lessons we learn is when you put into practice that little that you know. It gives you space to learn much more and never grow tired of learning. There is so much to learn when it comes to communication. Also, learn different languages. It will give you a wider field for you to have influence with other people. So if you have the opportunity, learn as many as you can.
Amen. Yeah. Andrew Owino.
Learn different languages, work on your accent.
Are you serious? Work on your accent?
The biggest room is the room for improvement. It's the biggest room in this world. But I want to leave our viewers with a thought to think about what your words do to people and what people do with your words. The cycle of that, if you can achieve your intention, then that's a complete good communication. So that you wanted somebody to be happy. Have you ever wanted to make someone happy and you said something, they ended up being sad? That onus is back on you too. Could you explain, Silvio? So that your words cause the intended effect. Let's spur up each other towards love. Then think about what people do with your words. Have you spoken and people don't do anything? Is there a problem with words construction? Have we learned how to make our words forcible? You know, there are these people who talk and you listen. The other person starts talking and you shut down.
Or you start clapping.
As you end up.
Those two things, what your words do to people and what people do with your words. That's communication.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you guys for your insights. You know, let us continue being that letter for people to read. You can, of course, share your views, your questions on social media platforms. On Facebook, that is Hope Channel Kenya. You can also find me on Facebook, that is Samuel Mangi. On Twitter, at Hope_Kenya. You can also find me on Twitter at Sami Mangi. This show is going to be posted on our YouTube channel, that is Hope Channel Kenya, concurrently on our website. I would like to end with, just to echo some of the things that they have said, you can only learn to communicate well if you listen. That is one. And when you start to communicate, may this verse be in your mind. Colossians chapter 4, verse 6. Let your speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt, that ye may know how you ought to answer each other. That's from us to you guys. Until next week, be blessed. Be blessed.